Good morning again, ladies and gentlemen. We have heard that we need more role models and more entrepreneurship from Germany, and I truly believe that is actually the case. I'm very honored to have three outstanding German hidden names, hidden champions next to me. We have Dr. Lange from EOS, the global champion in 3D printing, a market leader for roughly 30 years now. We have Würth, Elektronik, 25 years in the market and a true heavyweight in the industrial sector. And we have Brainlab, also 30 years in the market as a global leader in the medtech space. So to kick off the session, for us the question came up, how can we not just contribute on the startup phase of Germany, but also how can we transform and help those great hidden champions that we have, who are somehow 90% of the German GDP. How can we help them to enter the digital age and also to make the slogan, Made in Germany, future-proof? My question to Mr. Lange as the first question of the panel would be, how actually is it possible that you have been the market leader globally in 3D printing for 30 years now, and why is it taking off now? Why are you still doing what you do? And why have you not already sold the business to the US or to China?
I think the answer is rather simple. The additive business, industrial 3D printing, is based on an ecosystem. And everybody knows EOS, our core company, but most people don't know that we have in the group the more or less the core technology, which is the laser positioning equipment. This is a ScanLab group. And we have created, over the last 3 years, an ecosystem consisting out of startups to really take this solution to the market. So in principle, it's a rather complex organizational setup, but it is the answer, finally, to stay in a leading position regarding this industrial production.
And when we talk about made in Germany, for example, you have built up this ecosystem. We typically, in the news and in the media, we read about startups nowadays, which is, I think, 90% of the attention, or even more in Germany. And I truly believe that there is a misconception when we think of the Mittelstand, the small and mid-sized companies that we have in the country, which are around for decades. And so it's a case for Würth Elektronik as well. When we think of the industrial side, enabling the industry with parts and electronics, how has it been changing and challenging over the years for a made in Germany company that is going through a globalization, and now made in China is becoming more and more relevant, especially in the industrial side? So how is it challenging for you, Alex?
It's every day challenging. The thing is, when we were founded out of an idea from the owner, Reinhold Würth, saying in the mid-70s, let's go electronics. It took long time, as we started in 1993 with our company, our electronics business, ISOS, doing electronic components, which is really, for normal engineers, a bit like they don't love it too much, right? And the thing is, I by myself, I was working as a startup, and I lost business because we had a nice tool we wanted to create and to sell into the market at these days in 1994. And for the, let's say, prototype, we could get the components. For the next round of, again, showing it to a bigger audience, we could not get the passive electronic components, and we lost a huge amount of money because we could not go for the market. We lost this campaign. And Würth Elektronik gave me the idea of selling without any problems, doing and manufacture components. And what we do it with passion, and we make it available for our customers. And we are also in your 3D printers, we are also in the Brainlab electronics. So all around the globe, we ensure that hardware engineers get what they need on time, so we're a bit backup, and ensuring that the ideas created here or all around the globe, but also in Germany, get really realization and not only stay as an idea and do not get on the market. Yeah.
So yesterday evening we were discussing Brainlab's history, and we found out that the company is as old as I am. Stefan, when you started the company 30 years ago, you had a true vision of how computers can change the world, in particularly the medical world. How has the medical world transformed over the years, and how do you think will it transform even further by German companies like you who are running a global business?
Well, we talked about maybe global leadership, and in a way, ask myself how come that it really took us 30 years to get where we are. And this is mostly owed to the fact that software and technology was just developing, and we were almost in many areas of activities too early, and it was really painful to push forward with the technology that perhaps at some of the times the market wasn't really ready. And especially when we started, and since we're talking about made in Germany, I think that as a small company 30 years ago, going out in Taiwan and wherever in the world, I think that made in Germany was always something that really felt great, and I was able to then get maybe some credits based on the label. And mostly it was really technology that allowed us to be creative and dream of a brighter future in healthcare. And we have always been looking at every new technology, from cloud computing to AI and machine learning, mixed reality, as tools that would basically allow us to push the envelope further. And I think that I almost feel that 30 years has been taking too long. And when we talk about how we can really speed up the development in German medium-sized and smaller companies, and I think that a lot of times maybe it is that companies are not dreaming big enough. And obviously, I think a conference like that is certainly a big and important inspiration to dream bigger, and that's, I think, what we all need to do to basically move Germany forward.
So speaking of timing, I believe that when we compare ourselves, especially Germany, to the US and China, it might feel a little bit like the train has already left the station and we are running behind in certain topics. But on the other hand, we have this great engineering mindset and this great engineering talent in Germany. And the question from my side would be, being an entrepreneur myself, how can we, as Germany, ensure that we still have those great entrepreneurs working in particularly the mid-sized companies and not just for the big blue chip corporations, and also the global tech companies that you see in Munich all around, like the Amazons, the Microsofts, and so forth. So how can we ensure that those great engineers are still coming to the Mittelstand business and not just out of university directly to the automotive or to the global players? What do you think, Hans?
I mean, in our case, it's rather clear. As we have a clear vision, this industrial 3D printing is the key part of digital production. I mean, we are talking here about digital, and digital can be a personal internet. I mean, Amazon is a personal internet, but we are creating an industrial internet. And if you look into the first digital factories, the key technology in these digital factories is additive manufacturing. It's our technology.
Can you name some examples where you
Yes, I mean, well known is the first factory we have built together with GE. We have built with Siemens a factory in Sweden. And now these factories are scaling up. But we have also built with small size companies or Mittelstand companies, digital factories here in Germany, and people are not aware of this. And we are far ahead of the rest of the world in this kind of respect. And I'm very positive in the future. I mean, people at key technologies, like in the space technology, they ask us for helping them creating new product that they can enable, that can enable them to really achieve their targets. So we are really at the focal point, for instance, in space technology. SpaceX, the first well-known startup, they are using our technology to make their core components.
Maybe Alex, from your side, where is Würth Elektronik represented in?
I would say we are a bit more grounded. We don't go to space. We're really on the basics level here. And what is for us really important is when we talk about all these things going to happen, it's that we have, of course, it's culture in the company. I'm in the right mindset. Do I allow really this mindset of think out of the box? Yeah, and can I really do design thinking? Can I really go agile, whatever? That's mindset in the company. We as leaders have to drive this and to allow this, to give the room to grow there. And then from the ecosystem, we have to also understand the engineers we want to get, we don't get them where we are with our company. They're globally sitting somewhere. And then we have trouble about how do we get, let's say, taxation solved, right? I have now the problem with Brexit. How do I pay my members there? How do we get the internet as really a basic need, like water, like food, like, yeah? We need internet to be understood in the politician case, like really it's a need. We need high-speed internet everywhere, that everywhere where we have ideas, we can create ideas, let them grow. And that's so imminent important. Or when we think about, let's say, farming, we have internet of cows, eventually it's not so well known, or internet of tomato. We talk about getting better in farming, having less impact on, when I fertilize, do it on the right plants or not everywhere. It's able, but then we need 5G. We have to have it there, that the drones can go where they have to go.
So
and that's so imminent.
Speaking of needs, I think it's very crucial that we understand that we have 3 outstanding names here on stage from the Mittelstand who are representing a much larger group of companies and a much higher number of companies. The question is, what do we need to ensure that made in Germany, as we know it for more than 50 years now, will be a quality mark in the future? And what do you believe as entrepreneurs and managers, what do you believe is necessary that we all should work on and focus on?
If I can add this point, shortly, you can answer.
Sure.
The thing is really, we have heard again now when Altmaier he speaks about Tesla, he speaks about BMW, he speaks about Audi. But we are the Mittelstand, we have the most employees all over Germany, here in Germany, especially we here. But are we getting the right attention in the press? Sorry, also for the press, sorry, Mr. Burdorf, when I go a bit like this, but is the attention drawn on the right things? And we are willing to invest. We are willing to do things, right?
So it's press coverage, it's awareness. I believe that when you compare our mentality to the US, it's typically that a German entrepreneur would just focus 99% of the time on the engineering side and on the product side. And when the product is nearly perfect or perfect, he might consider printing a catalog. And the US might just start printing a catalog before they even have the product. I think this kind of mentality is something that we have not yet understood in terms of speed. And as entrepreneurs, speed is crucial in the global age. So what do you think is also necessary?
Yeah. Well, your question is what should really be made in Germany stand for in 2025, etc. So I think in the past it was really for quality and reliability and trust, etc. And I think that has obviously been changing with especially reference to the car industry. And I think that therefore there's an opportunity for the small and medium-sized company to basically redefine that, and we can really decide what we want really made in Germany to stand for. And I think it should really stand for agility and basically competition of ideas and collaboration, etc. What I find a lot in China, it's in over-aggressiveness and wanting to compete in the United States too, and it's basically more the fight on who could take over the toll booth. Where I think that in Europe we have a probably different model of society where, collaboration is maybe more important. And I think that typical people are maybe more modest and, humble, but that at the end is also an opportunity to build different other things. We just need to be aware of that. And so as a company, the typical German company was maybe somewhat rigid and stable, etc. And I think it needs to be more crazy and more diverse. I think that at Brainlab, the official company language is English. We have people from over 50 countries working in Munich. We speak over 30 languages, and I think that for any problem that anybody ever had, the solution to that problem always coexisted, and you really need new ideas and diversity to discover the solution that was always there. And that is also accomplished by basically more confrontation with customers and the problem. So I think in the traditional rigid structure of German companies, there used to be, like many others, the companies around the globe, the product manager owning the customer relationship. And I think it's important that we get virtually everybody in the company exposed to what customers need. And I think there is really an opportunity to redefine Made in Germany in a much more cool and meaningful way, and not even made in Germany, made in Europe. And I think I'm very excited about taking the opportunity of change to craft something greater and even better.
Speaking of Germany and Europe, I think this is a constant discussion that we have. how fragmented is the market compared to those larger markets in China and in America. So how is it a disadvantage for us to cope with all the bureaucracy as entrepreneurs, and what do we need to really create the speed of decision making and also the execution speed in Europe particularly, when we are still facing those localized national lawmakings?
I can only talk for our ecosystem. And what we have done is we just go to the customers. And I have mentioned this before, our largest customer base is still in the States. Why is this? I mean, they are open from a technology point of view. I mean, it's much more difficult to sell our technology to, let me say, German companies. But I can tell you they are following, okay? So our biggest region is indeed not Europe, it's US. And I'm very pleased. And what we are doing is we have just built in the US innovation centers where we speed up this process. But when we go to China, I can tell you that we have very high reputations there. And we are very careful on how to entering the market. But the solution, what we see today is that China is not a market where you can just sell a machine and then try something. We found a solution in just selling complete factories. So in principle, what we have done is we are changing our business model in the moment. So EOS is well known 30 years for 3D printers, materials, and service. But the key is the solution is a specific part. You cannot make any different way.
I get the point, but let's come back to the European and German discussion that we have as entrepreneurs when we are still deciding to place our headquarters into Germany, and we could have done it in the Silicon Valley maybe 5 or 10 years faster, or even not. So what do you think, what should change in Germany and also on the European level from a politics point of view and also from a lawmaking point of view to ensure that more companies like your companies are able in the future to still create made in Germany businesses and globally, being globally active?
I think we have a perfect infrastructure here. As when we talk about machine tools, I mean, Germany is #1. There is no question. So we have no problem to find people that make the best machines. I think we have no problem really to find the people. What we would like to get more is that the customer, also finally our target where we introduce this new manufacturing technology, is supported by the government like in China. Also if a Chinese customer purchases an EOS system, let me say for $1 million, then they get a funding of about 50%, because China has identified 3D printing as #3 technology in the digital factory. And whenever there is more than priority 5, then they do this kind of funding. And this is not the case here in this country.
I see. So the question would be, if I understand that, how will the government and the European Union support core technologies, not just from a funding point of view, but also for the customers to make it more attractive to invest into those fields? And I think it's the same for Würth.
So I have to disagree on the thing like infrastructure is perfect. If I look on our highways and bridges, it's not perfect, not at all. So we have to work on this one. Again, internet is not everywhere available in the high speed we need and how we like to see it. So that's really what we have to see. And the thing is, we have to change this. We have to see that it's our base for the new growth we have to have. And this has to be funded from the government. It has to be done from the government, that we can go the next steps of really rolling out this digitalization into the field and let the people work. And we have also a diverse workforce now. We are in Europe, but we drive it still with our values. And we have so simple components, we can only survive if we give the right service in behind. And our components are well taught and taught in the schools. And when you look back into the last things, we try to make the schools digital. But then last minute it didn't went to happen because, again, the government was too restrictive to say, no, we cannot make it. It's a department's thing, more or less, right? So we could not roll out in all the schools the digitalization. So we have to learn and go new ways of learning and doing things.
But I also believe that the entrepreneurs, just catching on question on that, the entrepreneurs, they cannot purely rely on what the government is doing.
No.
They also should, be a role model of what they try to.
Exactly. I'm not sure if I agree that we need, more government. In fact, I think that
not more government. I did not say.
Or more spending or stimulation. Yeah. But I think that as an entrepreneur, you find your way, in the environment that you got. And I think that I just feel privileged having had the opportunity of basically start my company here. I'm not sure if I would have succeeded in, other, environments. So I believe that to the most degree, governments should, leave companies, alone and let them focus on doing their thing. And I'm grateful that we have great universities, very good and very broad and diverse, education system, which is falling behind in some areas, and we need to make sure that that stays up to date, especially with a bigger focus on maybe information technology, etc. But I think that mostly I'm actually happy with what the government really provides. What I think is really a limiting factor and a threat to the German industry and Mittelstand is that there is not enough focus and drive in basically moving other companies digital. I don't think that we are basically the typical basically German medium-sized company, because we've actually done probably pretty good in getting our companies forward in a digital transformation. And I think that a lot of companies are just basically happy with where they are. So they think that business is great.
Exactly.
They're making enough, right now, and they don't feel the pressure and the pain to invest in moving things forward. And I think that, as stupid as it may sound, sometimes for them, a tax break is now all of a sudden, just appealing to the greed of, it's an opportunity to invest more in digitization. And then there is, I think, as the minister has said, the question of how would you actually get people dream big enough and get aggressive enough that they say, okay, what about just turning the company 10 times in size, and what is really missing to just develop a more crazy dream? I think we're just dreaming too small.
Speaking of dreaming too small, I really like that term. Speaking of being saturated as German entrepreneurs and also as a German economy, not hungry enough, but in a global competition against China and America, who are hungry for what we have achieved over the last 50, 60 years. The question comes up, what do we actually do on a number level in terms of digitization? And there has been a study over the last 2 years throughout Germany where we have been looking, I think from the German government, where they have been looking into how many euros are going to digitization year by year on average. And it's a small 6-digit amount, about 100,000 euros per year. So when we put that into comparison of the top line of the businesses and also the relevance, how will 100,000 per year change a company and make it future-proof against those kind of investments that Brainlab or EOS or Würth are taking to really bring the company to the next stage? So what do you think? What should entrepreneurs in Germany do when they say we want to invest into digitization? What does it really take?
I mean, if I pick up on this, what we have learned is, and we have built up an ecosystem of about 20 startups over the last 3 years, because we think the traditional Mittelstandscompany may not be in a position to just integrate this new technology and develop it by themselves. So what we recommend is that they line up with some of our startups. And we differentiate in the startup scene between technology startups. They feed our pipeline, new software, new materials, new processes, but also in application startups. They have very fantastic ideas on what you can do with these kind of technologies. And in this case, we offer to our customers to line up with these kind of guys because you can run a separate business in this.
And what does it take in numbers? What does it take to really set up an ecosystem like that? Is it 100,000 per year? Is it 1 million per year? Is it 100
I can only say I personally have invested about 10 million per year personally in setting up this. So it's not such an easy tour. But if you think about competitiveness, what is 10 million in a, let me say, 500 million business? And this is how I see it.
And when we take it to the level of Germany, where we have a surplus of hundreds of billions per year.
Correct.
If we put that into perspective, in what kind of amount do we actually invest into digitalization? It becomes a little bit frightening to think of the sheer amount of money that others are putting into the same field.
Yes.
So why do companies like Magic Leap, who have been funded with a couple of billions from the US, why do they go for a cooperation and an exclusive partnership with a German company like Brainlab? What do you think is the reason for that?
Well, we in our space have really developed a leading and unique position technologically, and then at the end of the day, it's also a personal relationship. So I happen to know the founder for 15 years, and I was able to convince him that we can take his dream even bigger. So I think this is like Ronnie Abrowitz is a pretty crazy guy with big visions, but I think that we actually almost had a competition on who would basically dream that even bigger in the area of healthcare, and so that convinced him that I may be more crazy in that segment than him, and so together we probably form a great team. And I think that in the German Mittelstand, it's not necessarily just a matter of willingness to invest, etc. It's a little bit also the fact that a lot of companies have relatively complex products and services, etc. So therefore, that also is what had really protected their business for a long period of time. But that also makes it difficult to sometimes transform into the digital world. And so I think the only way to overcome that is basically just getting more exposed to the opportunities that the digital world really holds, and that can only be achieved by getting fresh new talent into the company. And so therefore, I really think that there needs to be a initiative. There need to be also and that's maybe the only area where politics come into place, where I think the social acceptance of entrepreneurship as a role model, as an important pacemaker for society, etc., should essentially be maybe put more on the pedestal. And so I'm not sure if that is basically just a matter of say media and public relations, but I think basically sometimes a matter of recognition by politics on how to...
and I think, may I make a statement here, because this fits now. I think Mr. Burda just left, but DLD is a big thing here. And I wanted to use the opportunity to just give you an example what DLD did to our industry within the last year. Because I met one of the entrepreneurs here in the software industry, and in fact, he was working for the movie industry, also not 3D printing. Lynn Kaiser, can you just come up and show? Because we met here. Lynn and I met here. And Lynn said to me, hey Hans, I think I have software that could make a revolution for the 3D printing world. And I said, why don't we do it?
Exactly. So Hans, come join me here.
Yeah.
So we are not married, but we already produced an offspring.
Yeah.
So 2 years ago, we met here at DLD.
First time, yeah.
Exactly. And I was a little bit hesitant to approach him because Hans has this aura of royalty a little bit, when he walks around. And but then I finally took heart, and we talked, and I think you were a little bit overwhelmed with all the stuff that I said. Yeah. But I said, your machines are fantastic, but nobody's using them the right way. Yeah. And it's true. I mean, people are feeding your machines with the same models that they're feeding, traditional production process. Yeah. And I said, we can do better. And we created an object as a demonstrator very recently, that it's the first time it's really been shown here. And it does several things. I mean, this is an object that was not created by a human engineer. It was created by algorithms. I run a company called Hyperganic, and we build objects that hopefully, ultimately, at some point, will be as complex as nature. And we print them on Hans's machines. And we did several things. I mean, first of all, this thing looks alien, because it is. It was not designed by a human. And we did something that only nature does, which is only possible with additive manufacturing. We changed the material as we printed the whole thing. So this material did not exist before it was printed. It's metal, same metal that SpaceX and all the other guys use.
Dylan, what does it do? What is it basically used for? What is
this here is a rocket engine.
Okay, it's a rocket engine.
It's a rocket engine demonstrator.
With EOS technology?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it was created simply by using algorithms.
And just to put this in the context,
yes.
When the rocket guys, I mean, we had Bülent Altan here, the SpaceX co-founder. When he saw this, he said, why don't we create innovation centers all over the world to make them usable, this kind of technology, because the rocket industry is desperately waiting for these kind of parts. Nobody else in the world can do this. But this is an ideal combination of ecosystem.
Exactly.
And we have not only this for the rocket industry, I can tell you, not more detail, but for the key elements in humaneering, in advanced mobility.
So it's a very, very fair point. I think we should, thank you very much, Lynn. It's a great demonstration
getting heavy,
of the object.
But
I think
this only happens at DLD.
And we did not need millions, you see? We did not need millions.
And it's
we did not really need anything. I mean, we just had to meet.
It's a great example how the Mittelstand businesses and the startups are collaborating and creating ecosystems. And I think the same goes for the medical space and also for the industrial space. There would be numerous of examples that also Brainlab and I think Würth and EOS can bring to the table. Just for the sake of timing, I think we should try to wrap it up from the Mittelstand's perspective.
Let me just finish this, because it's important. When I talk about advanced mobility, and this kind of software will be a key element in creating batteries that have a totally different performance than what we have, and this is the limiting factor for our electronic drives.
Good, in our industry, to fill up here, because it's a rocket. Okay, in our industries, we serve, let's say, horticultural farming. We serve, as I said before, all the things which need energy efficiency. So this is where we spend a lot of energy in blockchain. It costs energy like hell. No one is talking about this. So the power supplies built for this one have to be energy efficient. That's our drive now in behind with our engineers to go how we make these power supplies more efficient. You don't see it. You don't see it. I cannot put it on the stage. It's so annoying, this part, when I would show it here. But it's what we work on, where we encourage even engineers, researchers to say, go with us this way. Let's do it. We do it internationally. Let's research for better materials, and let's go there. We do hundreds and billions of parts per year, and we enable young startups to do it and to make it together with us. It's important that we see the whole picture. We try to, of course, enable these startups, which are not only software-driven, also hardware-driven, to really get the things on time, high speed, and with a full service concept in behind, that the design is going fast and high speed to market. That's the challenge of German Mittelstand, to be ahead of China, to be ahead of all other kind of startups around, of countries around the world. We have to be fastest. Still, we have to be ahead. That's very important.
Mr. Boda.
Listening to this very interesting discussion, especially it's about made in Germany, and it shows 3 middle-aged entrepreneurs listening and following. I want to give some of my thoughts about what happened in the German Mittelstand, and especially in the family enterprises. Where has been the main problems? The main problems in the family enterprises has been many members in the family. And in between, there was mostly one, like me, who believed in the digital revolution. I saw it since 88, 86. I saw it And I knew I could have the imagination of what will change. But in many family enterprises, you have 3 or 4 sisters, brothers, and one was kind of avant-garde, and the other one said he takes away all of our family money for these strange things, which is called internet and stuff like this. And these 3 gentlemen, especially Mr. Würth, who is ein großes Vorbild für mich, especially Mr. Würth and these 2 others who are founder chefs, showed that if you can do it like I did, I could pay out my 2 brothers, and then I could start. If I would have the 2 brothers, I couldn't be successful. This is a moment where you have to go alone on Mount Everest, like Messmer. And you must have a lot of courage and vision, of course. Vision. If you have no vision, there's no Mount Everest. Thank you.
I think there is nothing else to add. Thank you very much, Mr. Boda. Very inspiring. It's optimism and courage. We have the Mittelstand as the backbone of the German economy. We are made in Germany, and we hope to see more and the same faces in the future on the global landscape, bringing German companies and quality to the world. Thank you very much, and have a great day. Thank you.